Hello, guys. Welcome. It is Friday. It is February 12th, 2021, and it is time for our Facebook Live weekly update on COVID 19. Sorry for the slight delay. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we are good to go now. So everything should be in line. And for those of you that do not know me, welcome. I am Dr. Shelley Coleman Glover. I am a board certified gynecologist, also a master's in public health, and I'm located in Claremont, Florida, which is a suburb of Orlando, Florida. Specialize in anti-aging, bioidentical hormone therapy, minimally invasive surgeries, and wellness. So welcome to my Facebook Live on COVID-19. This week, really, once again, now for the third week in a row, really excited to be able to bring good news as far as this is the first time where we're actually seeing a significant amount of decrease in COVID cases. So that's really, really exciting. Now I'm making things worse, aren't I, guys? So really excited about that. It doesn't mean that COVID's gone. By all means, it has not gone anywhere. It's still here. But the fact that we are not seeing that straight up vector that we have been seeing for so long is really, really reassuring. And a big part of that, as we know, was that it was all the travel, throughout the world, but especially, here in the United States. People were pent up, they were frustrated, they were tired of being tired and being cooped up. And so a lot of people traveled and were around friends, family, and that just created a big COVID party. And so we saw a significant increase in numbers after that, and we've been seeing the subsequent snowballing effect of that. So just to be clear, even though the number of cases have decreased significantly across almost every state, the death toll is still high, and that's because that there's once again a delay in that. So we will hopefully, God willing, see a decrease in the number of deaths over the next month or two. But right now, that is still it's actually holding. The number of people in the hospital is down significantly for the first time. Since since the fall. It's still not lower than it was at the first surge, though, so still we're not out of the woods, but the number of people dying is still going to be extremely high because of that whole snowball effect, and once again, access to care and access to ICU beds, etc. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks we will see some improvement in that, as long as people don't lose their minds and think, okay, the numbers are going down, so we can just go back to business as usual. That's the problem. So there has to be the new norm until we can get as close as we can back to the old norm. I don't even know we're going to know what to do if we actually are able to function as normal again. And I think that there's still a long way off before we get to that. So please don't let your guard down completely, but do enjoy the fact that we are seeing a decrease in numbers. So what are the numbers for this week? Worldwide cases, over 108 million cases, and the U.S. makes up 28 million of the 108 million. The deaths worldwide, 2.38 million, so almost 2.4 million. Recovered 80.4, and in the United States, 487,000 deaths with 17.9 million recovered. And I know that the numbers just kind of sound like numbers. I was on a seminar earlier this week, and one of the doctors was saying it almost sounds like the NASDAQ ticker tape that just goes across, and the numbers just start to blur, and nobody really pays attention to them anymore. But to say that we have 28 million cases and we haven't even reached March 1st. So this is kind of when we were just hearing about COVID a year ago and just hearing about the fact that it was coming. There were a couple of cases in Seattle, but it wasn't really, something it was the big bad ugly that was out there. But, we're thinking, and nobody could have told any of us that it was going to be this devastating, and that there would be 28 million people that have actually contracted it and 487,000 that have died. They also, this physician likened it to the number of people dying is like, we've said, I mean, it's more than people died in the World Trade Center, and people forget that, how devastated we were with that one incident of the World Trade Center, and yet that's happening. The World Trade Center is happening every single day, and people are just kind of turning a deaf ear and a blind eye to that, and that's really concerning. Or if it's the same as like having, like, say, 6 jumbo jets just falling out of the sky every single day. I mean, we would shut down the airline industry and be screaming and hollering and ripping our shirts. But yet, when we hear these numbers of people dying from COVID, unless it's somebody that's actively affected your family or your friends, then it kind of like I said, glosses over. So please realize that these are real people that are living with COVID, getting COVID, and also dying of COVID. Vaccinations are up. We have now worldwide, there are 159 million people that have been vaccinated, and 48 million within the United States. So remember our numbers, we have 28 million people that have had COVID. So we are now have surpassed we are past the number. We have more people vaccinated than have actually gotten COVID. So this is a good thing at this point. There are it's projected that it's 1.62 million people being vaccinated a day. So right now, 1/10 of the U.S. population has been vaccinated at least once with one vaccine. Remember, you have to have 2 of the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines to be completely vaccinated. So we only have 11.9 million people that have done that. But we are excited that we've had that we at least 48 million have gotten at least the first shot, and then at least we're getting people that have gotten the second shot. And as most of you are aware, I have had both of my Moderna vaccines, and I'm still doing well. I'm actually now 3 weeks status post my Moderna vaccine, and really doing very well. Got my first one, and was a little achy, painy, a little bit of fatigue, definitely a sore arm. Second one was really much better for me than the first, even though you hear, it varies between different people. So wide gamut. I'm going to try to get you some other people that can come on who have had both vaccines to give you their stories so that you can hear it from the horse's mouth and not me speaking about it secondhand. And thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, we are now in Florida reporting that 1.6 million seniors have been vaccinated. So that is a huge blessing for Floridians. And as you know, we are vaccinating 65 and older, and healthcare workers and frontline workers. And our only fallback currently is that teachers are not being included in that number. But there are 24 states that are including their teachers as frontline workers, which I think is really important in getting our schools back to functioning normally. And we are Elizabeth is putting some good data on for you guys, some links for you guys to look at. We are on our way. So I think that, and hopefully, like I said, Florida will jump on board and start vaccinating its teachers as well. So the other numbers, I got a little distracted. The as far as worldwide, the countries still line up the same, which is India, Brazil, Russia, and UK below the United States, and the highest number of cases is still India, but there's still more than, they only have 10.8, which is only, listen to me, only 10.8 million cases. That's crazy. But compared to the United States, we still are more than double cases and more than almost triple deaths in the United States compared to India, and double that of Brazil. And the within the United States, California is at 3.44 million cases, and 45.9 thousand deaths. This week they surpassed New York, which had had the highest number of deaths at 45.6 thousand. So, and remember, the majority of those deaths had occurred all at the beginning of the pandemic. So now California has exceeded that. And of course, my disappointment with that is that, I always say everyone makes mistakes, but we're supposed to learn from our mistakes. And it just appears that we did not take what was happening in New York to heart enough to learn from them, and to not do the same thing and have it happening again in another state. So disappointing. It is what it is, and hopefully we don't see a snowballing effect, and that this decrease is actually going to continue to decrease, and that other states and other hospital systems and stuff like that are going to be able to do what they need to do to keep history from repeating itself a third time in another state where we're losing that many people to COVID on a daily basis. Following California is still Texas, and then Florida, and New York, and Illinois. So the number lineup is still there. But just to be clear, even though California has the largest number of deaths, California also has the largest number of people. So you have to realize that there are other states that are not doing well. It's just that they're smaller, so their numbers are smaller, but they have more people dying per capita than California does. So just keep that in mind, and don't think that California and New York are these, once again, isolated places. It's just that they have a huge density of patients, and so you're going to see more people, higher numbers. And that we always talk about, because when I give you the local data, and when you're looking in Florida, of course, we're at we've had yesterday 8.5 thousand new cases, 19 new deaths within the state of Florida. California, conversely, had 496 deaths yesterday. In the U.S. overall, 3.4 thousand. Remember, only less than 3,100 approximately deaths in the World Trade Center. So more people died yesterday from COVID-19 than died in the World Trade Center, just to put things back into perspective again. Florida is at a 6.2% testing rate. Orange County, which is where Orlando is at 5.18%, so doing well. And this is another where you can look at the numbers. So Lake County, which is the smaller county, which is where my office is located, is at 9.69%. Positive rate. So more people are testing positive in Lake County than they are in the neighboring Orange County, even though Orange County has way more residents than Lake County. So even though the case number is going to be higher in Orange County because the density of patients and people is higher, the amount of people per capita is higher in Lake County. So their numbers of deaths in Lake County is 494 versus 1,000 Orange County. And overall in Florida, we already went over that. And hospitalized, 75.4 thousand in the state of Florida, 2.27 thousand in Orange County, and 1.1 thousand in Lake County. The male to female ratio is pretty much the same, a little bit more, like I said, on the female ratio to males, which is a good thing, because as I said, the males are a little bit of the weaker sex when it comes to COVID, and so less of them having it is not a bad thing, even though as a female I certainly don't want to get COVID or have any of my female friends or family members get it. What else do we have as far as the latest with, some of the school systems are still closed. Florida has been open. Our school system has been open with an option for what we call Launch Ed. And they have definitely, there's lots of studies out. They are saying that the schools are safer than the community at large. And so it's certainly not safer than your home if your home is actually functioning as a bubble. But most people's homes aren't functioning as bubbles. So even if the child is left at home, if the parents or other siblings are coming into the house and they're not functioning, practicing safe protocols, then the house is no longer safe either. And so the transmission in the community is higher than what we're seeing in the schools. The biggest concern the schools have is the teachers, because it's so we know the kids overall have a better outcome with COVID-19, are way less likely to become severely ill, way less likely to die. Not that we don't see deaths in kids and we don't see kids being hospitalized, but it's the teachers that are taking care of these kids. And a lot of people may not realize, if you haven't been to school lately, but there are a significant amount of teachers that are over the age of 60 and have diabetes and have high blood pressure and are overweight, and but are wonderful teachers that love your kids, and we want them to be protected, because if there's no teacher to teach your child, it doesn't matter whether your child is sitting in brick and mortar or at home. And so we need our teachers to be healthy and safe, and so hopefully they will get vaccinated very soon, so that they can feel comfortable being in the school environment. So I say all that to say that we have Chicago has one of the largest school districts in the country, and they have finally, with their teachers' unions and the government, come to an agreement to reopen, and they all will be vaccinating their teachers, but they have come up with different parameters to feel safe to go back into the schools, and so we will see how that rolls out. Of course, the federal government has been adamant that they want to have the schools reopened. Of course, California, with their high death count, etc., and their marked infectivity, I think that it's going to be still individualized, and my understanding is that they are, pretty much in lockdown, and that makes sense. So once again, that's just so prevalent right there. You want to do all the safety measures you possibly can when you're in that kind of a situation. There was some talk this week about travel bans, and that seems to be all hearsay, and that has not, at least at this point, they are not saying that they're going to institute any travel bans. And of course, that's because spring break is right around the corner. Can we believe it? We're, like I said, a year from when this pandemic started, and so and we do know, of course, what happened last year with spring break, and so we shall see once again, and hopefully history does not have to repeat itself, and that we can have a more safe but still enjoyable spring break this year. So we've got a little bit of time before we have to delve further into that, so we will be talking about that a little bit more in about a month, right? The one thing I did want to bring up that came out in the news earlier this week is that a lot of people said everybody should know that follows sports that the NBA was in a bubble. So the NBA players and immediate spouses, the coaches, etc., were all put actually here in Central Florida, in Orlando, and they were in what we call a bubble, where they just interacted with each other the whole basketball season. So they were contained. It was closed in. NFL didn't do that, and because they just didn't. So anyway, but what they did, which a lot of people don't know, is they put a lot of protocols in place for their players, and so they put trackers on their players, and I'm not recommending that we wear trackers by any way, shape, or form, even though if you haven't quite figured it out, your phone kind of is a tracker, if you didn't know that. But they had an actual app that basically was following the players and was actually keeping track of where they were, who they were, and if they actually got closer than 6 feet to another person, it would actually do something to alert them that they were getting too close to the person next to them. So pretty very high-tech stuff. They, of course, were following the CDC recommendations for masking, for social distancing, and just interacting with the people closest to them. What they found was that, and then they were doing the tracing, so they were testing them every single day. So they were looking at things. They basically have some really good data that will probably get published. And their infectivity rate, it was less than 1%. I mean, it was in the 0.00s. And the reason they were able to do that is because, of course, they were as soon as there was a case, they would jump on it, and then they would go back and figure out who that person had been around, and they would isolate all those people, and so they were able to really keep really tight control over that. But when they asked the physician that was overseeing the whole program what he thought was the most important thing, there were a couple of things that he said. He said that number one, the biggest thing was the mask. So he said that the mask wearing, when they saw that, they did not see the transmission. They correct mask wearing, which means covering the mouth and the nose and the nose. They also found that the biggest risk, as we've discussed before from other studies, was eating, because of course you're not wearing a mask, and usually if you're eating, you're closer to the people that you're eating with. So that was the biggest risk factor. They did find a little alarming was that it didn't have to be 15 minutes closed into a space to see transmission. That they were seeing transmission in shorter amounts of time, and I can't tell you the exact minutes, but definitely ventilation, being outside was good, because here you think, you got these football players, they're like right in each other's faces, but they're outside, and so that didn't seem to be the problem as much as it was being inside, being closed in. If you're in a room that doesn't have good ventilation and you're with somebody that has COVID, that you could get transmission sooner than 6 minutes. So that's a little interesting data. You may want to Google that, or Elizabeth, we can see if we can find that. I don't think it's published yet though, but if you get a chance, I would check that out, because that was kind of eye-opening for me to read about that. I want to talk to you about ivermectin. We briefly touched on it a while ago when I was talking about being careful on the internet, because there is ivermectin that is prescribed for animals, and people have been trying to get a hold of ivermectin via the internet, or via I don't know, wherever else you get it, pharmacies that sell for pets, etc. So be careful, because if you don't know what you do, first of all, ivermectin for animals is not approved for human use, and so don't assume that it's going to be the same and that you're going to get the same effects. Also, there's a lot of stuff when you buy from nefarious people, you don't know what you're getting. So you could be thinking you're getting ivermectin, and you could be getting something completely different. So there are several studies out that are suggesting that ivermectin will be helpful both in early treatment of COVID and also in prevention. And from what I see, it looks very promising. They need bigger studies, longer studies, but what the FDA is saying is that they're not opposing use of it, they're not condoning use of it, because of course we've had a whole catapult of all these different meds over the last year that were the golden children that didn't really pan out to be as helpful as they thought. So they're finally being a little bit more cautious about what they're recommending, but they're not opposing it and stopping or censoring the usage of it. So I think that it's something that you should definitely, especially because the good news with the vaccines is that those that want them, God willing, if things continue the way they are, they're projecting that everybody that wants to get the vaccine will have vaccine availability hopefully by June. So let's even fudge it and say by August. So that's still much better than what the original prediction was, which was December, January. However, if you get COVID between now and then that didn't help you, right? So my thing is, for people that know that they're not high up on the vaccine list, then this is another option that you can consider discussing with your physician. So let me give you a little bit of down and dirty on ivermectin real quick, and let me find a little cheat sheet so I don't ramble. If I can. Give me 1 second. Where did I put it? Ivermectin is FDA approved. It's not FDA approved for use in COVID. Just so we're clear, it's considered an anti-parasitic drug. The most common one you guys would think that you might know of is scabies. That's the thing that causes all the little itty bitty, very very itchy scabs all over your body if you get it, and it's really hard to get rid of. So that ivermectin is used for parasitic diseases like that. So it's highly used in countries where parasites are a much higher problem, and the so it's a drug that's been out. It's been out and highly utilized. So it's not something that's new. It acts. The thought that for how it works with COVID-19 is that it inhibits the host, which is us. We're the host. COVID is coming and knocking at our doors. It inhibits the body from absorbing the protein from COVID, the spike protein into our cells, and so that's step number one. And because obviously if you can't get the virus into your body, then it can't replicate, right? And that's what we're trying to stop. It also seems to interfere with the whole penetration through the cell membrane in the lungs. It's causing a lot of the lung leaky symptoms that we see. It also has an anti-inflammatory process, and part of what we see with COVID, remember, is not just the results of COVID, but what happens is what our body does because of the COVID. So inflammation, so calming down that whole inflammatory response can definitely lead to a shorter outcome in some of the what we call the catalytic results of COVID that can lead to severe illness and death. Like I said, the COVID people, authorities have not said that they're condoning it, but they're also not saying that they're not going to allow it to go forward. There are, like I said, several studies out there. I will post a link that kind of does a really good summary to what's been studied so that you guys can look at that. Now some of the studies have not been that good as far as not being biased, or obviously the dosages being different, or patients being put on multiple things. Because, of course, when we're dealing with COVID-19, we're trying to save a life. And so it's not just like, la, 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 let's just figure out what works and what doesn't. I mean, these are people's lives that are at stake. And so a lot of times they are going to be on other drugs at the same time. So it's hard to do what we call a pure randomized double-blind study when you've got somebody's life in your hands. So that's going to, affect the data, though, if people know what you're on and da-da-da-da. So, but there's the good thing about ivermectin is it's not super expensive and really well tolerated. It can be given in children. I'm not telling you to go and buy something off the internet and give it to your child. I'm telling you that it has been used for parasite disease in children. And so as little as weighing 30 pounds. So it's not something that cannot be used in children. There's a difference. It usually side effects, nausea, diarrhea, pretty much anything you put in your mouth, any medicine you put in your mouth can cause nausea and diarrhea. And it can cause dizziness, and it can cause itching. I hate itching. But anyway, in the big scheme of things, no long-term residual issues that are associated with this drug. And like I said, it has been widely used for years without any major problems. As far as whether you can use it with pregnancy and with breastfeeding, as with any drug, they're going to always recommend that that's not the case because we aren't going to have the studies there. But it did seem that at least in animal models, there may be some concern in the first and second trimester for possible issues with the fetus. So I would at this point recommend that if you are pregnant, that would not be something that you would engage in until there's can't talk today, until there is more data available. But there are, and like I said, there's no pediatric data specifically in utilizing ivermectin in kids. But I am starting to talk to my patients about it. I'm looking into it for my family members that are not able to get the vaccine. So I will keep you posted on how that works. But I wanted you to be aware of that because, like I said, it's prevention, but it's also for early treatment. So this is not the drug that you're reaching for when your loved one. This isn't the one that you go in and say, when they're telling you that they're about to intubate your loved one. What about ivermectin? No, this is the one when you or your loved one are sitting at home and you just find out that you've been exposed to COVID. They have a whole recommendation for that. And then also if you have COVID and you have mild symptoms, this is when you take it. Or, like I said, that you can take it ahead of time to actually try to prevent you from actually getting COVID. And it's a really simple regimen. I mean, you take like one pill, take another one like 3 days later, and then you take one every 2 weeks if you're just doing the prevention thing. And if you do it, if you're doing it when you have it, and it's like a daily dose. So it's definitely something that we need to know about, and that, along with, we've already discussed in the past, the monoclonal antibodies, and getting that, and that you have to get that within the first 7 days of, now I'm going to mess it up, the first, oh Lord, don't hold me to it. It's a short time, and I'm drawing a blank, guys. So I want to say it's 12 days, but I can't remember with the monoclonal antibodies. I'd have to go back and look it over, so I don't want to give out wrong data. But anyway, the key thing is that we don't want to get COVID, but if we get COVID, especially if you know you're at high risk to get more ill, and or if you're not responding and getting better, and you're starting to get worse by day 4 or 5, you definitely that's it. It's day 10. So for the monoclonal antibodies, they have to be in by day 10, and the ivermectin, once again, it's supposed to be done as soon as possible because you want to be proactive with this versus reactive with it. So that was, I did one more thing I want to talk to you about, and then I'm going to let you guys go. We can delve into it a little bit more next week as far as the vaccines, what really is potential risks that go along with the vaccines, and deaths, etc. There's a lot of incorrect information going out there that you really need to, as with anything, when people send me stuff, I get a lot of stuff, and it can be stuff that seems convincing, seems correct, but then when you go back and you fact checked it, it's not. So please, when you hear these things, don't just take it at face value because your mom's cousin's aunt told you, or you read it, or you saw it, especially on social media, because a lot of that stuff is not correct. So we can sit down next week and kind of go over what the real data is. I'm not here to tell you whether you should get the vaccine or should not get the vaccine. That is a personal decision that you have to make. But I want you to have correct information and know what really are the true risks that can go with the vaccine, and what are the stuff that really that has been said that has not been backed up, and so that you can make informed decisions with the right information. How about that? And the other thing I want to say is that because I get people throwing numbers at me. I heard that this many people died of COVID. So I think the COVID vaccine. So I think the highest number that I've heard, which has not been substantiated, and from my research is not correct. So let's just be clear on that. Was somebody said there were 191 people that had died of the COVID vaccine. Okay, so let's just take that and let's say, for grins, that was true. Of course, that would be 191 people that should not have died, of course. And every life that is lost, as we've already said, is extremely important. We get that part, okay? But there are 48 million people that have been vaccinated with the vaccine so far. So if you said that out of that 48 million, that less than 200 people have died, that is not a high number of people that have died. Way more people die every single day of many, many things than that. And once again, so we're talking about 200 people since the COVID vaccine was introduced, if you even want to believe that data, which I do not think is accurate data. So, and if you took things in perspective, we have 487,000. So you're talking about less than 200 people dying from a vaccine out of 48 million, but we only have 28 million people only. Oh, crazy! But 28 million people have COVID, but 497,000 people have died. So, just put that in perspective. Keep that in your spirit when you're making these, because you really have to make sure that you are really understanding what you're saying when you're thinking, oh my God, this vaccine is dangerous. COVID's dangerous. COVID kills. We've got over 3,000 people that died yesterday from COVID. Even if you believe the numbers, we have less than 200 people that have died in anybody's book from the vaccine over the last, 6 months, compared to 3,000 people that died from COVID yesterday. And almost twice as many people have been vaccinated as have COVID within the United States. So just food for thought. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let you guys go. It's a gorgeous day here in Orlando. This is the Valentine's Day weekend. So I hope you guys have someone. I know it's a kind of commercialized holiday, so I'm not saying please don't get too caught up in spending lots of money and stuff. But if you have a sweetie, then make sure that you tell them you love them and give them a hug. And if they're in your immediate circle, if not, give them an elbow punch or whatever. And isn't it Galatians Day? It's Girlfriend's Day, I think, today. So happy Girlfriend's Day. Happy Valentine's Day on Friday. One of the nice things about Valentine's Day being on the weekend is, if you didn't know, the restaurants all celebrate Valentine's Day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so you don't have to wait till Sunday night when everybody else is trying to pack in there, because you still want to practice your social distancing. So by all means, if you are gung-ho about going out and having a Valentine's Day celebration with the important person in your life, then please utilize tonight. Utilize brunch tomorrow. Utilize dinner Saturday night. Utilize brunch on Sunday. You do not have to wait to go out on Sunday night to celebrate Valentine's Day. So have a wonderful weekend. Oh, and last thing, because I always forget, we actually do lots of pampering things in the office as well, and we have 2 wonderful Valentine's Day specials. So if you are interested in spicing things up a little bit more in your intimacy realm, check out our website, whybodybalance.com, or you can look on my Why Body Balance website, and what are you talking about? Facebook thing, and get some more information. As always, have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next Friday. Take care, guys.